Good evening and welcome back to another Strange Normal. My name is Bradley. We talk about the stranger things that happen in your normal life to give you a biblical understanding of what is going on. And there's a lot going on, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon so you're notified when things like this happen. Tonight is interesting. Well, I don't know if everyone across the United States, at least half of us, had a major storm go through. I mean, it was just a line from the top down to the bottom, and it went through and it knocked out power. It changed things. Wind came through and it went from 70 degrees here in Tennessee down to 30 degrees and snowed today. I don't know what's going on with this weather, but it's driving me nuts. So I was bundled up for quite a while today, but I want to tell you a little bit about what's going on this week or these next couple months. If you don't know already, we are going to Washington, D.C. for the Rededicate 250. It's going to be a fascinating trip. We're going to drive up there. We're going to be handing out great controversies, and also I'm going to be handing out some of these. I'm going to show you right now, if we can, some of these. Check out this new book. This is called Who Are the Non-Human Intelligence? That title might change a little bit, but this is done. It's in proofreading, and it's going to be laid out here and the following week or so, and then it's going to be sent to the duplicator to be sent out. And this is going to be a bigger booklet. It's not going to be the small little booklet that I've been handing out. This is one that is completely... Are we running through the intro again? I must have hit the button. I don't know how. All right, we're going to pause it right there. Stop that. And what it is, it's a bigger book. And so that's exciting because it really hashes out a lot of things about what we've been studying on this channel quite a bit, straight from the Bible instead. Rewind. There's not live stream beginning. This is live stream in. So we are in the live stream now. So what I think is fascinating about that is that it has to be a little bit bigger. Well, how big is it? Well, it's about the size of a Amazing Facts study guide. Have you seen that? About 6 inches by 9 inches or so. And it's going to be fully illustrated. And so this is a step up from what we were doing before. You can't get this yet. I can't send it out yet. But hopefully, by the time our DC rendezvous comes around, actually, not hopefully, if I can't get it into Remnant Publications by then, I'm going to send it to College Press, which is just down the street, because I got to get something out. This is so important that we're going to Washington, D.C. to do this, and I'm throwing every last bit that I have into this so that we can get this message out, hopefully to senators and the like, because this thing talks about everything. It goes over the 7 points of this whole thing, and it talks extensively and explains extensively the state of the dead, even major questions about understanding the state of the dead from the Bible, and this phenomenon that everyone is experiencing, we know is going to become a major last deception. And I know everyone, at least in my church, says, well, the last deception, that has to be something about worship, right? Revelation 13 says that. Well, if you look at the layout, yeah, that is a big deal. That is going to become a big deal. The second big deal is spiritualism. And that's part of one of the last plagues. So you have this thing that happens where probation, and we really haven't gotten into that right now on this channel, but the door starts closing. Think of it like the ark. There's going to be a complete annihilation of the church, not by water, but by fire this time. God's coming back. That's the second coming of Christ. And during this time period, there's going to be that door to the ark that's going to swing closed. And we all need to be ready. Does that mean that everybody is saved or lost at the same time? No, it doesn't. It means probation closes progressively for a group of people. The Bible says that the judgment begins with the house of the Lord. So if you are in the church, that should give you a little concern that you should be focused on preparing, right? At the end, this whole thing happens, and probation for these people at the very end that haven't received the truth fully or had the opportunity to accept it, they're still waiting. The door is still closing, and they should be having the opportunity to accept this message. That's why this is so important. That's why there's such a big push for spiritualism that is the deception. Why would it be that we should talk about the state of the dead and spiritualism if people's lives weren't at stake still at one of the last plagues, one of the last bowls, I guess you could say, in the Bible? I hope I said that right. It's very interesting what's happening right now. So we're pushing this out because we know that there's been a lot that has been pushed out about the Sabbath, about the truth, about the worship, but there hasn't been a lot said about spiritualism because we as a group, we really didn't know where this was coming from. It was all laid out there and it was all obvious, but we really didn't want to do anything about it because that's kind of the weird stuff. Well, you can call me the weird guy. You can call me the strange guy, and we're going to be a peculiar people together, and we're going to do this. This is going to be something that we have to do together, and this is the evangelistic booklet that I'm finally getting out there now that I know everybody has seen the small booklet that is primarily used for the church. We're going to use this bigger booklet, fully illustrated, to show you exactly what's going on here and help you reach the people that need this the most, especially the government out there. So I hope I rallied the troops enough with that. I'm really excited about this booklet because I've been working really hard on it, and there's a lot of people that have their hands on it right now, trying to make sure everything is correct and fleshed out, and the spelling and T's are crossed and the I's are dotted and everything like that. So it's exciting to see this begin to happen. That's on May 17. We're going to be doing that, and hopefully we'll have it out before then so we can ship it out. But we still have that tiny booklet, Angels, Aliens, and Ancestors, and that proves it from the Bible, from Spirit of Prophecy. It's really interesting. I'm going to be preaching on this topic from the Bible in Harrison, Tennessee. So if you're in the Chattanooga, Tennessee, in Collegedale area, or if you know someone that is, send them this and say, hey, you should go watch this. This is an interesting thing. But one caveat is it's at 9:30 a.m. We've switched the services around from school to church service, and so you have church service at the beginning and school at the end, and that's the problem. And so you have to wake up early to actually do this if you don't already. All right, so if 9:30 a.m. Harrison, Tennessee, this weekend, I'm going to be there. Story about people. Let's see. When I went to a last church just recently, there was a lot of people that hadn't even been to church in a long time. And you know why? This is such an important message. I've had pastors even come up to me and say, oh, I don't know if you should be talking about this. It's too weird. It's going to make people leave the church. Nonsense. Are you kidding me? There's more people that came into the church that hadn't stepped a foot on church in 20 years when I was doing that presentation than there had been ever, and the church packs out. That's what happens. When people see that there is a reason for their faith, that it's applicable for today, don't care about how strange it is. The Bible alone is a strange book. It's a book of miracles. And we present it as, don't talk about anything except for just love. Just tickle their ears with love, and that'll bring them into the church. No, that's not what you do. You show them the weird. You show them the strange. That's how great my God is. That's how you do this. That's how you do evangelism. Okay, well, my soapbox is tired tonight, and I haven't even started yet. Let's get into the program. Starfall, a long time ago, people asked me, how do you get into this? One of the main questions when I go and do these things is, and we have a Q&A at the end, and I say, they ask me, how did you get into this strange topic of UAP and spiritualism and stuff? Do you have any background in this? I tell you, when I went to AFCO, Amazing Facts Center of Evangelism, before I worked there for 10 years, I learned about Roger Murnau. I learned about all this background stuff, and I listened, and I thought, if what he says is true, it's got to be in the Bible. It's got to be in Spirit of Prophecy. So I dug in. That's what got me into this, and what came out of it was that short mini expose I call Starfall. Starfallmovie.com. If you haven't seen it, go to starfallmovie.com, and it's kind of the beginning of this whole channel. So Starfall, I talk about two people that were revealed about 3/4 in, that were two major generals in our military, the United States military, that were exposed for talking about this topic to a rock star, a pop star, punk star, I guess you could say, Tom DeLonge. And that was true. This was all the WikiLeaks Expo where all of Hillary Clinton's emails got released, and two of them came out. Let me show you. Let me play a little clip from there to show you what I'm talking about. This guy is very important to talk about right now. I'll tell you why in a second. As soon as I get my B-roll up here, let's see. All right. Tom decided he would try to find the truth about these strange events using his notoriety. Although the road was bumpy, Tom was surprisingly able to befriend a number of top scientists and multi-star generals at NASA, the Pentagon, and near Cheyenne Mountain, whom were willing to risk a court-martial to help Tom reveal to the public these strange paranormal events that the government has experienced since the 1900s. Among those whom Tom befriended were Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, and a board of high-ranking government advisors, which WikiLeaks confirmed through the Podesta email hack that two high-ranking generals on DeLonge's secret advisory board were General McCaslin and Major General Carey. This guy, the guy on the left, I'll bring it back, I'll cut it over, hopefully it doesn't start audio again. This guy on the left, General Neil William McCaslin, he's an Army Air Force Research Laboratory, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is interesting enough for this whole thing because why is this interesting? Well, the reason is because Wright-Patterson has been at the forefront of a lot of this lore for a long time. And perhaps for a reason, because the United States can't keep secrets, apparently. Because this is fascinating, because McCaslin went missing just recently when Congress asked him to come speak. They were trying to get a hold of him, and he literally disappeared at 11 a.m. on a hike. Now, maybe it's just because he's old. Maybe it's because he needed medication. We don't know. But the interesting part about this whole thing is this. Let me show you.
Joining us now, former FBI special agent and former Navy SEAL Jonathan Gilliam. Here we are, another very bizarre missing case, this one with this UFO tie. Welcome to you and thank you. I want to share a comment from News Nation's investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, who has been watching this case closely. He believes it's odd that McCaslin went out without his phone. Here's part of that.
It's a real question mark. It's almost as if, was he going out to meet somebody and he didn't want to be tracked or listened to? What is also puzzling a lot of his friends is the low-key nature of the FBI investigations. This is a very senior former Pentagon general, a man with some of the most sensitive national secrets in his head. It really hasn't featured much at all in any media releases by local sheriffs or by the FBI. Right. They're taking an extremely low-key approach.
Jonathan, now that the FBI is involved here, what stands out to you investigatively about trying to find this guy?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that to look at closely, which I'm sure the FBI is. One of the interviews they just played there a second ago, where somebody is saying that there's no reason to look at the FBI community, or excuse me, the UFO community. I mean, look, we as an investigator, you look at every community, you look at every person, every possibility, and that's what FBI agents are going to do. They're going to come in there. The law enforcement low-key investigation, as you saw, you were on the ground down in Tucson. It's hard to gauge what is actually happening by the activity of the sheriffs or local police at times. So what stands out to me, though, is that he left his home and went to a hiking trail. If the information that I have is correct, it's often people go to a hiking trail and they don't take their phone, and they want to unplug, or maybe he had an iWatch where he can make calls from his watch. So that would lead me to believe potentially he had a medical issue when he was on a trail. But from a point of security and the potential for who could have had an interest in abducting the general, the fact that he had access and information to some very classified information and technology-driven information for the vital to the United States government, that would be very, very important for the FBI to solve, because if he was kidnapped, they may not want anything to do with a ransom. These, if it was a nation state or another country, or even espionage, industrial espionage, that took this general and tried to get information out from him, that is a real possibility. These are possibilities. We just don't see them very often. So I think that is something that the FBI is going to be looking into. And his normal movements and his normal activity is going to play a big part in this, I believe.
Yeah. And we also know that homeowners in the area, I mean, hundreds of people who live in the area have been contacted about their security footage. What other investigative tools will law enforcement be looking into to try to uncover any evidence, even in his own digital interactions?
Sure. Well, his activity, like if that's a regular time that he goes for a hike, of course, that they're going to find that out. Where his phone was previous to that, was he meeting with certain people? What phones were in that location? Phones play a huge part in all these. I'm so surprised when bad guys do things with phones on their side. But they do. And who was around him at that particular time, and who has been around him? Generally speaking, where he's been at. So they have all the ability to look at all these different things with phones. Of course, the cameras, now that we know that Google has Nest camera, whether you subscribe to it or not, that may be something that the FBI is looking into now as well. So there's going to be a lot of technology that 30 years ago wasn't used, but is really becoming mainstay right now. And I would think also if they have the ability to get dogs out there, that's going to be a huge thing, because they can track from his house. Even now, that was February 27th. That's nothing for these dogs. They can still latch onto a scent from his home and see where that ended. And that is something that they should have done already if they haven't. But I would suspect that that's what they'll do. Yeah,
I know they're getting assistance from his base where he worked there as well. Jonathan Gilliam, thank you as always.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and down.
Wow, that's loud. I think what's interesting about this whole thing is not necessarily that he's connected to the UFO community. It's that he is so connected to some of the most important and classified stuff inside the military Air Force. And he's gone. He's disappeared. He's been gone for about 2 or 3 weeks now. As soon as this came out, I recognized that this was a big deal, and I thought he'll be back. They'll find him wandering around down, somewhere, and he's just an old man, and he's got Alzheimer's or something. Well, it's been 3 weeks. He's either gone or not with us anymore. And I think that's very, very concerning, because we have big wars that are about to start. And if at nothing else, if you don't read between the lines of this and wonder what's happening, this has something to do with big events that are about to happen. So I want to cover the spiritualism part of this way. We know that behind the scenes, Revelation 12, 7 through 9 says that there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels. Who is the dragon? Well, it's the devil and his angels. We know that there is something happening behind the scenes here. And whether you're on one side or the other doesn't matter, because it's what's going on is the final events are playing out. And so we're watching every aspect of this spiritual idea that's happening with this UFOlogy stuff. And I'm watching this McCaslin thing thinking, there wasn't just one person that was in the WikiLeaks. There was McCaslin that was doing a lot of the talking. It was very interesting. If you go back to that Coast to Coast AM episode with Tom DeLonge, where we talked about this McCaslin, I should have pulled that out. He said that they talked about actually talking to NHI, non-human intelligence. Now, we on this channel understand what non-human intelligence is. It's a demonic entity. It's a fallen angel. And I don't like to use that word demon, because that's a new international version word that actually just means devil, fallen angel. but people get really confused because they think demons are different than fallen angels because of NIV, the non-inspired version. But we have we know that ultimately truth and goodness win through this whole thing. So humanity's playing a very physical role in this. Your tomorrow is not guaranteed, but I want to make sure that everyone knows that this is what's going on right now. So it's an interesting aspect. So I watched a podcast this weekend, kind of about this whole thing, and they connected some dots in here that I hadn't seen before, or I can connect to other portions that we've talked about in the past that we haven't really talked about recently. One of those was Greg Cameron. He's an author about a lot of this spiritual phenomenon that's happening right now. And he says, there's other things connected to this stuff. We're kind of being fed the nuts and bolts of this idea through the news and other sources, but really this comes down to a phenomenon that is a little more paranormal, which is what us Christians understand as very demonic. So this is what he says about that. Maybe. Let me cut myself off for
Normally people are very reticent and reluctant to come forward with this information and say, they'll start with, I saw a big black triangle, it was hovering at 1,000 feet, it took off. And then you go, oh, interesting. Anything else happened maybe the day before or the day after? And they go, oh yeah, I had an orb float through the wall and my cupboards were all open and there was a poltergeist in my house. Yeah. Or, I swear I saw, my dead relative walk through that. Like, you'll have these adjacent, super bizarre fringe and niche stories pop up, and rightfully so. Like, people are but little by little intaking the UFO stuff, and much like we're seeing with public sort of the disclosure movement, is that we're being sort of drip fed this nuts and bolts militarized physical version of it.
Nuts and bolts physical idea version of it, when in actuality it comes a lot closer to spiritualism. Did you notice that he said dead relatives are appearing? We know that's not possible because Ecclesiastes 9:5 says the dead do not anything. They know nothing. They know not anything is what it says. And we've probably beat that dead horse quite a bit on this program, but so I won't go into all 4 verses that you can prove that dead relatives will come back and show themselves to you from the Bible, but we know that's part of the marvelous works that people are going to marvel at the end of time. So just be warned that the Bible does say in 2 Corinthians 11:14, let me see if I can say it here correctly. Wow, isn't that fascinating? It says, 2 Corinthians 11:14, and marvel not, for Satan himself can transform himself into an angel of light. Let me say that correctly. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. So if you see anything come across that appears very luminous and beautiful, don't immediately think that this is an angelic entity. This stuff has a lot more to do with metal objects in the sky. It has to do with poltergeists, paranormal phenomena, things that go bump in the night, and fuzzy creatures. Fuzzy as you can't see them, blurry, I guess, is the idea. Lots and lots of different things that are happening right now. In fact, I had the biggest thing that people see are these glowing round balls of fire. We talk about that a lot on this channel. But I had a Druid priest on the program once, and he's a part of my private community in the Discord. We talk quite a bit. Actually, he posts quite a bit, and he has some amazing things he posts. But one of the things he said on the channel with his wife, who was a former witch, they both came to Christianity and the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and they said what we see is usually this stuff starts out as these balls of fire, and then they manifest themselves as people. Let me show you that clip.
On this channel, we talk a lot about orbs with the UFOs. And at first, they would start as an orb. It would be interesting. We would be out camping, and we would have a ritual. And
They would get very active.
the entire campgrounds would be nothing but these orbs floating everywhere. It would be all over the place, not just this one or two or whatever, but they would just be everywhere. And we believed that, we were in a fairy city. That's where they lived at. And they were coming and going quite frequently there. And then eventually there would be some of them that would manifest into more human-like forms.
Really?
Yes.
It's amazing to me that when people think of demon, automatically in their mind they're thinking horns, teeth,
Evil.
but fairies. I mean, we're talking about Tinkerbell. Stuff that is in kids' movies, Ferngully, Tinkerbell, all about fairies, and you think, oh, that's cute, and no parent really has a red flag about putting their kid in front of a fairy movie. But these are another form of demon.
It's a devil. It's the devil can come to you in any form. It doesn't have to be in an evil, horned, pointy tail, red figure, or to look like it's very bad. It can come to you as a beautiful creature. In fact, a wonderful looking woman. Beautiful. Probably more beautiful than anything we've ever seen. It can come to you as a beautiful man. I was joking. I went to an all-men's conference this weekend that was held by a Christian church, and it was, I didn't go there. I was there for somebody else's thing, but I had to sit around. And I thought it was interesting because at the men's conference, one of the table that was beside me, it was a bunch of exhibits. I wasn't a part of it. But the exhibits beside me, one of the guys was health, and so they brought this big pull-up bar. And everybody... you get a bunch of men together and they're like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to do more pull-ups. And so you had all these guys doing pull-ups and stuff. And they were doing they start counting 12, 13. Everybody was just cheering 13, 14, 15. And I was looking at that and I was thinking to myself, we cheer for 14 pull-ups, but Adam could probably do one-arm pull-ups all day. We were perfect back then. And how far have we fallen? Where was I going with that? I have no idea. But I think it's interesting that we can be beautiful creatures if sin didn't destroy us physically and mentally, spiritually. Sin is a terrible thing, but that's what Satan wants, and he's going to use every aspect that he can to get that to happen. Okay, so let's takes me a little second to get back here. We've had a little bit of audio trouble today that has caused me to be a little more careful on what buttons I press, but let's get back to this. Satan kind of went underground in the 1700s, and so that's why we don't see a lot of the spiritualism today. We had, in the 1700s, we had a lot of, and before, a lot of black cat crossing your path, throwing salt over your shoulder. Don't go to the 13th floor. Well, there's probably no 13th floors back then. But you understand what I'm saying. There was a lot more spiritualism back then than there was today. There was witch hunts. And now, today, you don't see that as much. Greg Cameron, who we're talking about on this program, he said that, have the verse stars up here, that these things, these stars of the heaven, that he was seeing would eventually come to people and say, you know what, let me heal you, or you can heal people, you can be your own gods. And that's exactly what Greg said is already happening to Chris Bledsoe even more today. I know we've talked a little bit about that, but apparently this is happening more and more often. If this is the right clip, I hope it is. Let's see.
This creative state of mind where you're able to navigate your thoughts more clearly, but also late at night seems to be another one, or some people even
that when Chris said he said that there was a wound, but we didn't check the wound when I was there. Him and his father checked the wound that night, and they couldn't find a wound on
That's what he told me, yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't find the wound on neck. So that he said at that point he could heal people, and he was able to heal people. And then comes the really bizarre stuff. So I only meet him a few times, and he can't talk to me because I'm in Canada. He can't do stuff by email and stuff like that. So I meet him an experiencer conference in Maine. So he's there, and Chris is like some of my friends. They don't go to the lectures. They just sit in the hallway and talk to people. So Chris is in the hallway talking to people. This woman comes up to her, and there's twins. These women are twins. They're in their 70s, 2 women. One woman says, my sister here, she had a stroke. She can't hear. She's totally deaf. Can you heal her? And Chris is standing out in front of the hotel. Suddenly his cell phone, there's Tim Taylor. Tim Taylor says, if you're ever in front of a hotel and someone needs a healing, go ahead and do it.
No way.
Yeah.
This is really interesting because what he just said was fascinating. Chris came and said, look, I'm in front of this hotel and this lady came up to me and she says, I need to be healed. Healed? Are you kidding? So she's going to be healed? How is that even possible? Well, then his phone goes off, and who is it on the other line? It's Tim Taylor, who's the NASA guy who's all into the spiritualism and says, hey, if you're in front of a hotel and someone needs to be healed, go ahead and heal her. What? They're going to assume that his phone is listening to him, but it's not his phone. Understand? We got something else listening, and they're all about doing this crazy stuff. So this is what's going on right now. I'm gonna continue the video.
He says, I don't know.
Wait a second. Hold on a second.
Thinking, was Tim psychic? Like, what's going on?
Whoa.
Tim's this weird guy, but
yeah.
And so then he tells me the story, and he puts his hands on her ears, and he says, in the name of Jesus, like I already said, in the name of Jesus, I heal you, or whatever. And this woman goes into my lecture, and she comes out of the lecture, and she says, I can hear everything said. I can hear. And I said, that's pretty cool, Chris. So then these two girls, one is Mike Cullen's former girlfriend, and there's a woman out of New Jersey who came to me after this event took place. So they're going to ask Chris for a healing. So at lunchtime, all the people from the conference go to this restaurant across the street. So I'm with them, and these 2 girls are sitting beside Chris, and I realize they're going to ask for this healing. So just me and Mike might have still been there. Mike Clellan might have still been there, but I'm not sure. But anyway, I figured it's a private moment. They want to do this. So I said, okay, Chris, I'm going back to the lectures. I'll catch you later. See you girls. And I took off. This girl comes back and she's distraught. She's like, holy, you can't believe what happened. And I talked to her maybe 4 or 5 days ago again. And I said, can you repeat this story? What happened in the restaurant? She said, it was like a third person who was in the conversation. She says, it was like, Tim Taylor, this, and she's going, and she said, I looked at I couldn't read the messages or whatever. And I said, that is the story I heard. And then the part of the story that you have to ask Chris that they brought up, and this was the fact that the phone was a transmitter phone.
I don't believe that. I don't believe the phone is a transmitter phone. I think we're dealing with spiritualism here, and I think it has a lot to do, checking my audio, it has a lot to do with Tim Taylor being very, very close to this occult. Remember, Tim Taylor is that guy that works at NASA. He does all the launches. He's head of these launches. His real name's not Tim Taylor. It's something else, I think. And he's also says he does these worship ceremonies every time a rocket launches. This is what, has been coming out about Tim Taylor. And so it sounds as if he's deep into the occult already. So I think it's very difficult to sit back and just say, look, this guy's doing healings and it must be from God. No, it's not from God. This is not, if you're being talked to by a guy that's deep into spiritualism, the occult, and he's telling you to go ahead and do specific things, chances are that these are the miracles that are going to happen at the end of time. This is what the Bible talks about when it says this stuff. Let me see if I can find that verse. Spirits working miracles. Yeah, so obviously that's in Revelation. We talk about that in 13 and 14. But false Christs and false prophets, there we go. Matthew 24:24. Let me pull this up here real quick. That is right here. Should just have that memorized. That's a good one. For there shall be false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive even the elect. Now, I think this is worthy. Checking my audio again. This is worthy of mentioning that this is a fulfillment, or one of the fulfillments of this prophecy. This would absolutely trick some Christians. These healings are appears to be indicative of the time in the apostles. But I think they're not. I think that you can have something plug your ears and then all of a sudden say, hey, can you heal me? And then all of a sudden they unplug your ears. I think these are tricks of the devil. I don't think that these are true healings because the devil can't do that. So let's be very careful about what we believe and watch for things like this. So, let me see what's next here because I don't trust my notes anymore. Moving on to this clip right here.
This creative state of mind where you're able to navigate your thoughts more clearly. But also late at night seems to be another one. Or some people even, will take medication or substance to get themselves to shut off part of their brain so they can so they don't have anxiety or so they don't think of all the tasks that they have to do at work. And it's in those times when those things are shut down that you're just kind of like in this liminal receiving state where you can have these ideas. And that's, I've got a tattoo here. It says Carpe Noctem. Like,
pause it right there just for a second. I want to talk about this. What he's saying here is that, Bledsoe was thinking all this stuff, and he was, able to receive these things from somewhere else. And this goes into ET and all this other stuff. But what it's actually talking about here is talking the spiritual realm. And so this is what Christians call the spiritual realm for those that aren't affiliated with Christianity and don't understand that whole idea. And there's two big sides. There's the good side and the bad side. 2,000 years ago, the good side was working to make these miracles, but they said that this is going to happen at the end when we see this happen again. He says we can tap into this stuff. And so this is so wild because you would think of the occult as a bunch of hooded people that are just kind of, lowlifes. But apparently they're talking about it open, and I don't even think they realize what they're talking about. This is what's so gnarly about this UFO thing is that people think they've discovered something brand new, and in reality, it's a new guise, so they don't realize the danger that they're in when they're talking about this stuff. We're halfway over with this clip.
Tattoo here says Carpe Noctem. Like, I mean, this is I know myself by now that at night, when the rest of the world is kind of sleeping and when I'm just about to go to bed, it's in those moments when you're in and out of consciousness, sort of floating toward, and your mind's just kind of freely wandering, that you'll get these quote unquote downloads. And the best piece of advice that I can tell anybody is just keep a bedside notepad.
Exactly.
And write it down, because I guarantee you will forget it. You will forget it. You'll remember 1% of what you're,
So that's anybody that studies this stuff should understand that quote, because he's essentially quoting what a lot of musicians have said. Bob Dylan. Let's look at that clip real quick. I think that's worthy to talk about. I did a whole video about this. It's called what is it called? It's one of the first videos I did on the channel where it's the I'm gonna bring it up. That way we can all look at it together, because I think this is important. The Christian. Yeah, here it is. I'm gonna bring up my screen here so you guys can see what I'm doing. youtube.com/strangenormal. Let's go to lives, no videos, and then go to oldest. And then I go to do what thou wilt, the mind control plan that has already begun. This is a clip from this video right here. Checking my audio again, making sure I'm still on. And I think it's fascinating, because this is what a lot of these musicians have said. They keep a notepad beside them because they need to write things down that's sent to them, is what they say.
This does not mean that every song or music artist is bad. Some artists simply echo the exact same phrases that they have heard other popular top artists sing. But some artists have been chosen, and they push the same agenda that Satan has been pushing for thousands of years.
Santana told Rolling Stone magazine, quote, "You meditate and you got the candles, you got the incense, and you've been chanting, and all of a sudden you hear this voice, write this down." Santana described receiving information from the spirit world like a human fax machine.
He sat me down and he told me that he had done his meditations and that he had spoken with his wife and that he had spoken with the angels, and they had come to him and they had told him that this is what he needs to do.
Santana's angels are really devils who are using Santana to communicate Satan's age-old lie that we are gods.
Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I want to get tapped into what he's doing.
Satan told Santana the same lie he told Adam and Eve. In Genesis 3:4, we read that lie that Satan told Eve.
God has forbidden us to either touch or eat the fruit of that tree.
God knows that as soon as you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you and Adam will be like gods yourselves.
Calling humanity divine or like God is the same lie that Satan told Eve in the very beginning. Essentially, we should follow our desires instead of following what we know is right. In short, do what you want.
Do what you want. And so I think it's this is going to go into a kind of a collage that I put together that and if you're sensitive to music, you can turn it down for a few minutes while I watch this, because I think it intertwines kind of some clips that I have found over the years talking about how the message that has been pushed, that has been written down by all these artists, are the same message to everybody, and that's the message of do what thou wilt. And then we're going to come right back. So this is just a fascinating clip. I'm going to go ahead and watch this.
What you want.
Do what you want to do. You can do what you want to do.
But I can do anything that I want to. I can pursue any kind of lustful desires that I might feel. I can engage in any activities that are so-called sinful activities and not really worry about any ecumenical councils making it right for me to do these things.
Living for, as I've said, all of their earthly and carnal pleasures.
A satanic world is a world reborn in purity, a world where the instinct and the intellect will be complementary to one another rather than being at odds with one another.
Now, if a Christian said to you, you were just really worshipping yourself, what would you say?
In a sense, they would be right. It is a form of self-worship.
It's my hot body, I'll do what I want. I don't go to school and I kill people. Whatever, I'll do what I want.
So you can do what you want to do. You already know. You can do what you want to do. From LA to Tokyo. It was all inside you. All the time. Remember.
In America, Satanism is sensationalized and kind of misunderstood, and people associate it with worshiping the devil and things like that. But it's really a philosophy about individuality and self-preservation. It's about being your own God. And that's a lot of the things that I've agreed with.
It's just the strong message that we're putting out, which is to promote free thinking and individuality and the right to do what you want to do.
So you can do what you want to do.
We feel that there's no reason why these people shouldn't just flip the coin completely over and simply call themselves what religion has called them for many, many years. Call them devil worshippers, or disciples of evil, or Satanists. Of course, it's very hard for a person to hang an uncomplimentary label on themselves, and for this reason, for many years, there will be people practicing Satanism as good Christians or other religions.
That's what you want to do. Amen. Amen. Amen.
And so if you want to see the whole clip, you can go to my YouTube channel and watch it. But essentially, this is the message. One of the many messages that has been pushed out in media is do what thy will, do what you want to do. And if you don't recognize any of those sound bites or clips, those are popular music artists of maybe 5 years ago or so. And you might have recognized some of those. But I want to, that's for the person that has been caught up in music. Let's look at some of the older musicians as well. Things that were even before my day. I don't recognize some of these names coming up, but you guys might if you're older than me. Because I think it's important to look at all generations as well. So just make sure I'm in my notes here. Do what thy wilt. Judges 21:25 says, every man did what they thought was right in their own eyes. It was a time back in the Bible where they said that absolutely we can just decide on what we want to do is right. And that got them into a lot of trouble. They weren't following God anymore. They wanted their own king, and now they had their own judges, and people are just deciding to do whatever they thought was correct in their own eyes. And it's kind of like where we're at today. Not going to get political here. Okay, so Greg, I think, is still trying this stuff. And what he realizes, this is the guy that's been talking about this stuff. He says he still hasn't realized that this is demonic yet, but he says that he's trying meditations, and this is where he gets his information from. Watch this. Where's my clips? There we go.
And all of a sudden it comes, and it's like knowing. You know. If you had the experience, you know. Get the pen out. And I had the pen, and I pulled it out, and it was like knowing. And it was the whole thing was 24 things, and it was like, you think it's this, and I've been told this numerous times. Everything that what you think it is exactly the opposite of what you think it is. Right. So I'm writing it down, and I get about 14 of them, whatever, I take my glove off, and I write this stuff down, put it back in my pocket, I start to walk, I take about 10 steps, and that feeling comes over me again. Oh, here it comes again. I get the pen out, and I start to write. And lots of times I'll be like in a shower, or I'll try meditation. So I'm in meditation, and I heard people make this joke before. You're sitting in meditation, and you're sitting there, and all of a sudden, you're about...
Okay, we'll rewind it.
And all of a sudden it comes, and it's like this knowing, and if you had the experience, get the pen out. And I had the pen, and I pulled it out, and it was like this knowing. It's like, write this down. And it was, the whole thing was 24 things. And it was like, you think it's this. And I've been told this numerous times. Everything that what you think it is, it's exactly opposite of what you think it is.
Right.
So I'm writing it down. I get about 14 of them, whatever. I take my glove off, and I'm writing this stuff down, put it back in my pocket. I start to walk. I take about 10 steps, and that feeling comes over me again. Oh, here it comes again. I get the pen out, and I start to write. And lots of times I'll be like in a shower, or I'll try meditation. So I'm in meditation. And I heard people make this joke before. You're sitting in meditation, and you're sitting there, and all of a sudden you're about 30 seconds in, all of a sudden an idea comes, and you go, can you come back another time? There's even a story about
I'm trying to do something.
Famous musician that the woman Eat, Pray, Love. She tells a story where she says they're on for 10 years on the bestseller list, whatever his book was, and she says the book just wasn't coming, and I just couldn't figure it out. And I remember there was a musician, I can't remember the guy's name was. He's driving down the LA freeway, and suddenly this song comes, and it's a beautiful song, and he goes, can you not see him on the freeway? if you want me to get this song, do you think he'd come at a better time? Otherwise, he told him, go to this other musician. Go to this musician and give it to him. And then the woman that wrote Eat, Pray, Love, she says, so I thought, I'd try it. So I go, okay, I'm here. I just want to let you know, whether you show up or not, I showed up for work. Now, if you're going to help me, you can help me, but I'm here. I'm doing my job. And then she writes this book that was like one of the biggest selling books of all time.
So obviously these things are helpful for their own deceit. They're not just helping people because they ask them to. As soon as they helped you, they're going to use you up and spit you out and kill you. I think we have many examples of that. Remember, Michael Jackson was he would have his doctor put him to sleep so that he would have these dreams, so that he would have this next song that would come to him. Well, what happened? After that was done, he just had to sleep longer and longer and longer until they let him die. It wasn't the humans that let him die. It was the spiritualism. He was washed up. He was done. Perhaps this is what also happened to Robin Williams. This whole entertainment industry is littered with this stuff. And I'm going to show you that today, not only just with musicians, but with magicians, and with comedians. But wait, there's more. Let me show you the next clip here. This next clip, they talk a little bit more about that. They say that the experiencer has these songs. Ephesians 5:11 says, "Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness." This is what they said, and this is probably some of the artists that I mentioned that I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and show you. Here it is.
Of the flow state of this, there's also Robbie Williams. Are you familiar?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's an experiencer as well. He talked about this on, I think, a Weaponized podcast with George and Jeremy. I've spoken to him as well. We remain in contact, and I'd love to have him on the show one day, but he's got this incredible story of him writing a song. And I forget which song it was, but he's writing a song, I think, in his LA home. And as he's writing this song, this orb suddenly starts to appear, this golden orb over the horizon as he's singing the song. And as soon as he's done the song, the orb goes away. And he does it again, and it comes back, and it goes away. And he does it again, and it comes back. And he's like, hold on, I must be crazy. So then he drags his wife in, and she sees it. And then he drags friends in, and they see it. And there's this other phenomenon that happens afterwards. But point is, there are a lot of artists who experience not only these type of downloads, which leads to a best-selling book or a bestseller or a hit song, but also have interactions with entities, whether it's in an astral state or in a physical state, or they see a craft. You even go so far as John Lennon, one of the most inspiring artists of our generation. Like, this guy was he was a game changer in terms of how people lived. He had his whole Newtopia sort of movement that he had with Yoko, but also the song Imagine, and this guy kind of changed the world. Yeah. And for him to say that he experienced things, makes perfect sense.
Over here, up there, I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river. It wasn't a helicopter, it wasn't a balloon, and it was so near.
And you look sort of round, white, luminescent, and silent.
Silent, and it looked dark, like black or grey in the middle, and had white lights, just looked like light bulbs, just going off, on, blink, 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 round the bottom, and on top was a red light.
So obviously, what people are seeing primarily are these round glowing things, but these things can change themselves into anything they want, right? And so you have John Lennon, I guess that's who that was, out there saying, hey, yeah, I saw this thing. Well, they were dealing with the occult quite a bit. In fact, I think they even have one of the major occultists on their albums. So I'm not surprised when they start seeing UFOs. Absolutely not surprised. But that's not the end of it. There's also some others that when Chris Bledsoe came to this guy who's talking, and he said, you know what? They told me that the message that we want to give is in the music already. Oh yeah, we kind of just went over that. So watch this.
Of the flow state of this, there's also Robbie Williams.
I get a phone call. This is about 2014 from none other than Chris Bledsoe. And he said, and now I know he's the real deal. I had this experience with him with the dog. So he says, I got a message for you from the Guardians. I said, really? You got a message from me from the Guardians? Really? He said, yeah. I said, what did they got to say? He said, Grant, they want you to know the messages in the music. I said, well, Chris, you may be talking to the wrong guy. I'm a radio talk guy. I listen to podcasts. I have no interest in music. My father, everybody's interested in music. I have no interest in music. I don't listen to music. And he said, well, you should listen. The song you should listen to was Kashmir by Led Zeppelin. I go, whatever, Chris. He goes, how they drag you in. You start to realize, is this random or is this you being dragged in? They said, and the other one you should listen to is After the Gold Rush by Neil Young. And I go, Neil Young is involved with this thing? And he goes, yeah.
So I don't know any of those guys, but you might. And if you do, leave a comment below. Tell me what you think about that stuff. I don't really want to go into what those songs were trying to say because I don't really care about the message from these demonic entities. But I do think that there is a Bible verse in Amos that talks a little bit about this. It says that, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread or a thirst of water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. Why? Is it because God's left? No, it's not. It's because these people are more focused on music, social media, what they can do, money getting, all this other stuff, and so they aren't inquiring of God. They don't want to build that relationship with Him. And so that's the difference between a Christian and a non-Christian, is that we spend time with God, particularly one time a week. And that's what Satan wants to get rid of, is especially spending time with Him one time a week on the day He's specified. So I think that's a really important point. So, Rob, if I have my slides right, Robert Johnson, he brings up Robert Johnson. We talk about Robert Johnson quite a bit in that documentary that I showed you a bit of with the music. This is what Robert Johnson says. This is what he says about Robert Johnson.
I said, I live in Winnipeg. It's the one city in Canada where nobody wants to visit. Nobody. It's a nowhere. Neil Young grew up in Winnipeg. I was singing the same song, like, what is going on here? And so I started gathering all these songs, and I came across piles and piles, like people like
the Eagles.
The Eagles, yeah, or what's the guy that had the child problem?
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson actually said he was afraid to put his name on albums because he said he didn't write any of this stuff. Or Yoko Ono saying it's like channeling, that the Beatles were channeling. Look
at Robert Johnson. I mean, the devil.
I list
Me and the Devil, the Crossroads.
Sure,
all of that does seem like it was channeled as well. Like, I mean, he literally talks about selling his soul to the devil and all that stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
I list in the back of the book. I list all the songs that were created under 5 minutes. One of the famous musicians said, if it comes in more than 5 minutes, it ain't worth writing down.
Right.
and this idea, or how many songs came in dreams? Like the famous one is Yesterday by McCartney, where he wakes up in the middle of the night and there's a piano in the room and he goes, holy cow, and he sort of gets the chords, whatever it is, and then he goes around for a month. Have you heard this song? Because he figured someone had sang it before.
You hear those stories about the blues.
Auto skip to the next one. I just want to say that before this goes to the next one, this is the story about Robert Johnson, because it's told by a friend of Bob Dylan who had the exact same thing happen to him. And I'm not going to beat this too hard, but I think it's important to point out that this is what they're talking about. And they said the devil sold himself to the devil in the background here, and yet they're talking about UFOs like they don't have no idea what they're dealing with here. That's what really is bizarre to me about this whole thing. They got to know exactly what they're dealing with, because if they know their history about it, they know they need to stay away from it, unless they simply don't believe in the devil, period. And they think that all this stuff is crazy. It's not crazy.
When they go out to the crossroads and sell their soul to the devil and come back, all of a sudden able to do stuff. Robert Johnson, Tommy Johnson, that whole mythology was one of those kind of deals almost. When he left Minneapolis, he was just average. There was 5, 6 other guys doing the same thing. When he came back, he's doing Woody and he was doing Van Ronk and he was finger picking. He was playing cross harp, and this is a matter of a couple of months.
That's when I went to the crossroads and made a big deal. One night, and then went back to Minneapolis, and I was like, hey, where's this guy been? He'd been to the crossroads.
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I made a bargain with it, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my hand.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Does he look happy about what that is? I think that he doesn't look happy at all. I made a bargain with the devil to get where I am now. Boy, it doesn't look happy at all.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And on this earth, and then in a world we can't see.
What a shame. What a shame. And so that's not the end of it, though. He goes on to say that this happens in magicianry. So if you go and see a magician, this guy in yellow who started this podcast, he used to be a magician. And he says, anytime in entertainment, we have the same flow state that happens. You get into this flow state and you're able to do these things. Now, let me explain how this works. Because once you understand spiritualism, it's a little more obvious. When you're a magician, suddenly you're being played. You're not playing. Something has inhabited you and possessed you in not perfectly, because perfect possession means that you're completely out of it and it can talk through you, but it's able to control you, and you're still able to say, no, I'm not going to do that anymore, because you're not perfectly possessed. But possession is more than just, flopping on the ground or rolling your eyes back in your head, like Hollywood talks about. You can be possessed and people not even know it. Possession can happen. I think they went on in this podcast to say that when they were playing music, everyone in the jazz organization could be in sync with each other and not even know why. He says the same thing happens in magicianry. Same thing happens in comedy. Listen to this.
Magicians get this a lot too. As a practicing magician, I've put a lot of work into this. Actually, I have a talk about this as well, about the difference between sort of magic with a C, magic with a K, magic with a J. But essentially, the idea that during these flow states, there's 3 ingredients that we have when. So basically, magicians all around the world, we get to witness real miracles. But we won't tell the audience when they happen, because that's what the trick's supposed to look like. But there are times during a magic performance when you're in this flow state. You can do no wrong. And that's what I mean by flow state. It's like everything, it feels like, is precognitive. You can just deal with anything. There's a knowing that everything's going to be okay, no matter what you do. And you'll even throw wrenches in the process to see how you deal with them. During performances, you'll try to trip yourself up just to see if you can get out of it. It's that type of, and then with that comes this confidence, this stupid confidence where you have no business being this confident. There's no reason for you to be this sure about something that has a probability. And the third ingredient is this Pygmalion effect, where the people in the audience believe that you can accomplish these things, right? And they have this core belief that you can do it. And because that, you're feeding off that. And so when you put all these things together, magicians will, and I have plenty of stories. I wrote, I put this out to a bunch of magicians, like thousands of magicians, and I got 200 in a day. I got 200 responses. I asked them, describe a miracle that happened during performance and tell me what state of mind you were in when this happened. And it was small group of people, end of the night, flow state. I was on fire, and I just went for it because my gimmick or the thing that was going to make the trick work malfunctioned, and I had to just wing it, and I just went for it. And now they're guessing people's passcodes. They're guessing people's names. They're I've had stories of think of this person you haven't thought of in years, and think of something you'd like to tell them. And as he's doing this, that person texts him, incredible, almost synthetic synchronicities. They're made by the magician because he's in this altered state and he's playing with probability. That's the means. That's the currency. And so we have these things happen over and over and over again, and we don't tell the audience that they happen. If I guess your passcode, let's say I already, my trick malfunctioned and now I have to just and I actually get it. I'm not going to go, oh my God. I'm going to go, ta-da, right? And they're going to go, oh my God. But then I'm going to go see my magician buddies and go, you will not believe what freaking happened last night. It was insane. And so magicians tell each other these stories all the time.
Yeah. All right, let's pause right there just for a second. So the verse that comes to my head was 1 Timothy 4:1. It says, now the Spirit speaking expressly that in this latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of demons. We're coming upon a time when the devil is going to give special abilities to people, because this is what the UFOlogy has been telling all their evangelists, saying that there's a new age coming, and you need to flow into that new age where you will receive these higher state of being. You will go into the 4D realm and all this other stuff where you can experience things that you haven't experienced before. That's not happening. We're never going to get there. Because that's a lie. These are lying spirits, and that's how this works. I'm going to get to the comedy one real quick, and I'll let you see what he says about comedy, because I thought that was even more fascinating than that. So let's see if this plays.
And when I put that out there, I started getting responses from comedians. And so comedians on stage, they do crowd work.
Yeah.
And when they're in the throes of being in the flow state, they'll all of a sudden start going, you there, you look like a plumber. Well, I am a plumber. And then they'll start doing these like crazy, and they can't explain that either.
Yeah.
And so it seems like artists of all different genres brush up against this when mastery starts to be attained. Even writers like yourself. So when you've been doing something long enough, you get into a loose state. Even fighters will say they don't know if it's deduction or if it's precognitive, like the punch is being thrown, where they can just kind of see them happening in slow motion. And I feel like everybody who attains that level of practice in whatever vocation they have or whatever, discipline they're training, eventually you hit that state. And in that state, you can start to interact with something else.
Mm-hmm.
And,
It says, even him who is coming is after the working of Satan with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth. Who is the love of the truth? Who is the truth? It's Jesus. He's the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him. And if you don't have that foundation, you can't interpret what's going on here. So these are the people that we need to pray for, because they can see it. I mean, can you imagine? I don't know about you, but me, when I was growing up, I didn't see anything worth anything in the church. Just a bunch of people talking to each other. I didn't think this stuff was real until I saw that there was actually stories pushing this out here and showing that this stuff is real, just like this episode. This stuff is real. And people experience it all the time, especially in the entertainment industry. And I would say, I would go even further than that. I would go into martial arts. When you know a trade so well that you can be used by the devil and he can just tap neurons and you can just, boom, because you have memorized certain things. You've memorized magic tricks. You've memorized the way to play a trumpet. You've memorized certain lines for a comedian. Maybe you've memorized certain lines to give to a girl or a man. Maybe you've memorized certain martial arts to kick someone in the head. You've practiced it so much that you can duck, duck, punch, and then you don't have to do it anymore. Your brain doesn't have to do it anymore because you trained it so much that the devil's been watching where those synapses go, and he can just say, let's play you like an instrument. Tap, tap, tap. And I can knock that guy out for you. Think about this. This is actually what's happening. When you're being used in the flow state, this is called possession. And you think it's wild. Not you. I'm sure people that are watching this are not in that. But I think this is very important that we realize as Christians that this meditative state, emptying yourself, letting something else back in, and having something else playing you as an instrument is severely dangerous because it's going to use you as it will. And maybe for a little while it'll be using you for good purposes that you feel are correct, but ultimately it's your demise and for the battle that's much bigger than you. You will not win by allowing this to happen. We do not win through strife and vainglory, which are what these things are. Is it great to play an instrument? Absolutely. Is it good to have exercise? Absolutely. Is it good to be funny? Yeah. Don't take that too far, because sometimes being funny is making fun of other people and not being very loving. Humor is funny that way. We have these canned laughter shows on TV that are training people how to laugh and what to laugh at. And when someone falls down a step or something, all of a sudden you hear canned laughter go, And it makes you laugh. And then before long, when you're at work and someone falls down the steps, you start laughing at them. Why? You've watched these stupid sitcoms too much. That's why. Okay. Let's conclude with prayer. I think I've had enough of this tonight. I think I've drummed this drum pretty hard. So if you think this is valuable information, hey, I'd appreciate it if you join my Patreon, patreon.com/strangenormal, or go to the website, strangenormal.org. We have some major things coming up, and I have some major things that are going to be printed here pretty soon. And we're going to Washington. We're going to expose this stuff for what it is. And so if you're into that, help me out. We're going to be doing some good stuff. Folks, let's pray. Father God, thank you so much for giving us wisdom and showing us the truth before it's too late. Help us to bring this to others, not just hold it as a river that has no outlet, as a dead sea. Now open our minds. Help us to sleep tonight, not open them as in the spiritual realm, but open them to your word, and help us to share the message. And help us to talk to you more. We love you, God. We look forward to the day that we are with you and we don't have to think about all this mess on earth, but we're with you. And
You're watching Strange Normal, where the truth is the truth.